blah, blah. Cheers, bro.
Cheers.
Oh, man. Here we are again with Podcast 20, short edition. Preface this. I wish Jason's band was a little more decisive because we're going to have to cut this short by, what time is it now? So we have about an hour and a half, which sucks because like I like talking, you know, and it's just like I don't want to feel like we have to reach a ceiling or a cap. So
at least this opens up for a part 2.
Well, there will have to be a part 2 or a part 3, you know. But either way, you know, we're here. We had a good meal. Man, this sake is not too bad, actually.
Not bad at all.
It's pretty good.
Nice. Sounds smooth.
How have you been since the last podcast?
Good. Growing. Really kind of just molting out of my own skin and becoming the butterfly I've always meant to be. And I was just kind of really psyched to be here. So it's nice.
Yeah, man. Sorry for the noise. If you can hear it, we got an air conditioning unit now, finally. But it doesn't, at least from right here, it doesn't really feel like it's working because I'm also right next to the exhaust. So it's kind of like really hot. But either way, you know, it's cooler for the rest of the room. I can't imagine what it'd be like without it. So, you know, good on you for getting this, at least.
We live in a hot-ass place, so it is what it is.
Yeah. Weather tax. That's what we get here. Yeah. Man. But, yeah, man. So what have you been up to? Just you traveled, right?
Yeah.
Did you went to
I was a groomsman at a wedding in Salem, Massachusetts. Salem is the Sausalito or Malibu of Boston. It's really nice. It's really pretty, but it's, you know, the kind of place you go to have your gay, witchy retirement lifestyle once you, like, are wealthy enough to afford it. It was a great time. And then I drove up to San Francisco to see my nephew and my older brother for Memorial Day because I wanted to take him out, my brother, and show him the sequel to his favorite movie as a kid, Top Gun.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So you saw Top Gun?
Yeah, I saw it in IMAX.
What did you think?
I thought it was great. All right. This is my Alfred reviews. I gave it a B+ because I felt like a lot of like the characters were underdeveloped and the romance felt a little superfluous. It's almost like the romance was like, this is Tom's beard, but because like the first movie is it's a little gay, but I would upgrade it to an A- because the flight scenes are so cool and so next level. And it's just one of those things of, yet again, you know, whatever you think about his personal life and Scientology being what Scientology is, like Tom Cruise is just like a gift to cinema, the way he just pushes the envelope for action movies. And if you don't watch it in IMAX, you're gonna regret it because you just feel like you're in the planes, and it's ridiculous. The movie is ridiculous. But for me, I kind of want to talk about this if you don't mind for a couple minutes.
Please do.
Yes, please do.
What I find, all right, I love movies. If you know me or you get to know me, you know that I just won't shut up about them. I love how they're made and how they're like how they function as a business product. And for me, what's really fascinating about this specific movie is that it was supposed to come out 3 years ago in 2019, and because of the pandemic, but also like Tom Cruise, like I was reading articles about this, he went out of his way to be like, no, we're gonna wait. And I feel like anybody else would be like, oh God, we gotta make money. Let's just release it. Apparently he called each individual cast member every time they pushed back the release, being like, don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine. And when like there was an article about how like Paramount was like, oh, we want to put it on streaming right away. He's like, no, it has to be seen in theaters. And people are like, oh, you're just one of those people who just want like to get asses in seats and despite COVID. But if you look at the box office, it turns out all of these decisions were correct because it's made like an F ton of money and it's been super successful. When I went with my brother, I noticed that the age demographic of the theater was all ages. You had the 50, 60-year-old old heads who loved the original in the 80s, and you had like young people our age and younger who were really liking it. And it's just like, it just had this kind of like, hey, do you remember movie theaters? Well, welcome back. And I'm just really impressed by how clearly, from a business perspective, it was a really good call to release it now because it's really working. You know, like if you want to release in the middle of a pandemic because you're like, let's cut our losses, and you like do like a Tenet, and it makes pretty good money, but it could have done better if it weren't for the fact that we're all dying of COVID. I don't know. I'm just really impressed by that. Like I can talk about movies for hours and hours and hours. So I won't.
So you saw the first Top Gun, though, right?
A long time ago.
Long
like
time
10
ago?
years. I've only saw it once. My brother saw it 44 times. I asked my dad.
Wow.
He's like, yeah, I ripped it on this is how my dad talks. I ripped it on a VHS, and your brother saw it 44 times. So he like memorized the dialogue and the script. For me, it's just like I've also saw it once. I thought it was fine, but I wasn't a kid in the 80s, so I didn't get that kind of magic captured for me as a youth. So
I love the first Top Gun.
You
The
did?
first Top Gun was amazing.
Really?
You know, even if there was no sequel, like Top Gun Maverick, the first Top Gun was still an amazing movie. Is still an amazing movie. And if you saw the first Top Gun, no, I don't want to. You know what? Okay, spoiler alert. If you didn't watch it, you might want to skip ahead. You know, but I will say that it started off the exact same way, like where they kind of. They illustrate how Top Gun came to be and whatnot, and the flight sequences, the way it was shot is very similar, if not the same. And
so
it's
you
still
saw-
Kenny Loggins' like Highway to the Danger Zone, which
so you
is
saw
amazing.
Top Gun Maverick then?
Oh yeah, I saw it last Saturday. I was blown away. I was
I
like,
loved it.
I'm so glad they waited. You know,
They did a good job.
I think they did an amazing job with Top Gun. Like, I'm glad they waited and they didn't like cut their losses like what they did with Black Widow.
Yeah.
Like Black Widow wasn't really all that great to me, at least. It was definitely one of the lower tier Marvel movies.
Which is frustrating because it's like it clearly has been in production for years and
Yeah.
just release it in the middle of pandemic. It's like
That's dead. Well, Disney's a much bigger.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot bigger people with more money making bigger decisions. So they gave Scarlett Johansson the short end of the stick there. That sucks.
Well, that's the thing about I think they're called legacy sequels, which is like you have to overcome this hurdle of the question of like, why are you making this? Like, why are you making a sequel to a movie that came out 30 years ago? And so you have to like be good enough to overcome that. And I can only think of one other movie that that was a sequel that came out for a movie that came out like decades prior that was actually as good or if not better than the original movie. So it's hard. I think it's really hard.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, like, but back to Top Gun.
Mm.
Man, did I enjoy that. I just couldn't stop thinking about, like, although some of it was also felt like, again, spoiler alert, some of it felt like it was just, like superfluous, just like kind of like the love interest. I was like, dude, Tom Cruise has to have some sort of love interest in here, right? And they had to tie it in some way or another. And I remember Charlie from the first one. I don't know the actress's name. Mike, look this up. Apparently, she got like really butthurt about it because she wasn't asked to come back or something like that. But that's also because she doesn't really look as good as she used to, you know. And then, I mean, in all honesty, Tom Cruise, I don't know how the hell he still looks pretty good at 60, you know. And it's like
Scientology.
maybe, who knows. But then also Val Kilmer. I like how they tied in
Yeah,
how
that's really
like
good.
he was, you know,
That's
because
really
he
good.
is sick and he does have a trach,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
But
he
they
had throat
tied it
cancer,
in.
yeah.
He has throat cancer, but he still managed to kind of talk. I think he just mouthed the words, but he didn't actually.
Yeah,
talk.
it was an AI.
Yeah, I think it
like-
was his son who spoke, right?
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, see, she looked okay back then, like, you know, but then
But then 30 years happened. It
Yeah.
is what it is.
Wait,
You
so
get
she
older.
wasn't recasted. She wasn't.
she wasn't even asked
Oh.
to be on it.
So my brother told me the lore, which is that the love interest in the sequel is a throwaway line gag from the first movie, where he's being like yelled at for like you took an admiral's daughter on a plane, and then his partner, played by Anthony Edwards of ER, was like Benny Benjamin, and so like, that's the character that they bring in as a love interest. So like it makes sense and it's connected to the first movie. But
Right.
but it was a phenomenon. My brother told me that it was in theaters for like a whole year, and you were like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" It's like, "Oh, let's go see Top Gun again."
Top Gun.
Just like Titanic or Terminator 2, where it's like, you know, you didn't have streams and you didn't have multiple TV shows that you had to catch up on. It's just like, this is the movie that's been in theaters for the whole year, and let's just watch it again because it's awesome.
I was also, I'm hearing a buzzing now. Wonder what that is. It's a little hot. It's fine. You don't have to wear the headphones. But yeah, you know what I loved about the first Top Gun was, you know, I mean, there was no CGI. There's no possibility for CGI or anything like that. So they were pretty much authentic, right? Here, they try to still hold true to that. I'm pretty sure there was still a little bit of it that happened, but a lot of it was still real, you know?
Because you may not notice it, but your brain does. Like your brain
Right.
can pick up on like what's real and what's not. And
Right.
and I think just the effort he puts into making it as real as possible, that's what really kind of puts butts in seats. You know, it really like draws people are drawn to just like the level of effort and attention to detail. Really, in any kind of art form. Kind of to segue to what you guys do, ever since I was a kid, I'm obsessed with movie soundtracks, like movie composers, like your Thomas Newmans, your Hans Zimmers, your John Williams, who like score a film. Because I make the argument that you can make like a C plus forgettable movie, like really memorable if it has a really good score. That's
Oh,
my
I
thing.
know.
You're right. So you're saying, Alfred, if you have throwaway acting, maybe subpar acting, subpar writing,
Subpar story, yeah.
subpar story, the music will make up for it.
I mean, an
So
easy-
I agree with you.
An easy example is the director, who I really admire because he makes gorgeous movies, Joseph Kosinski, who made this movie. He made Tron Legacy, and the story's fine. It's very serviceable, but really what's memorable about Tron is the music by Daft Punk. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. It's still good to listen to 12 years later. So
I know. Like, I'll say the same thing because, like, Hans Zimmer, like, he's behind some of, like, the most epic scores of movies. Like, definitely The Dark Knight. Loved all his stuff there. I think Pirates of the Caribbean
Pirates.
was also him.
Gladiator, Lion
Gladiator.
King. He got an Oscar for Dune. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And then also John Williams, who's another, like, classic one, who's been behind a lot of, like, Star Wars.
Indiana Jones.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, you're right. Harry
Jaws.
Potter. Jaws. Home Alone. Like, you know, like, dude, I think the score is just as important as, like, the actual movie.
Your childhood is defined by these people, you know?
I know.
I wonder if he did. John Williams did Homeward Bound, because man, I just gotta say I love the soundtrack of Homeward Bound.
Look up who did Homeward Bound, man.
I love it.
See,
So much.
See if you can find out who did that. Homeward Bound was a great movie. I enjoyed that movie growing up. You know,
I've never seen it. Is that the one with the dogs?
dogs and a cat.
Dogs
They like got lost or forgotten or something,
It's
and
real
then they
wholesome,
find
man.
their
Like,
way
it's
back
wholesome.
home. Pretty fun movie back in the day. But yeah, you know, like I think I love movies. I love just being in the movie theater again.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I know we've been going through COVID and stuff, but you can, like now you can wear a mask
Yeah.
if you want to, which I think is great.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a choice now. It's
Yeah.
like not a stigma as it
Yeah.
was like years ago. And also we live in LA, where it's just like it'd be different if you were living somewhere not LA. Let's just say that. You know, but I like the fact that we can go out to movies again and enjoy that movie experience with the theatrical sound and just the things, just like
Being in the
Nicole
theater.
Kidman says, like, you know, like when the lights go dim and blah blah blah. You know, like because I've been watching at AMC because there's like points and stuff.
Right.
But
For me, I love the communal experience. Like, there's a lot of funny moments in Top Gun Maverick that
Yeah.
the whole audience would really enjoyed and laughed and clapped at. And like for my movie, one of the two biggest laughs is spoiler alert. Sorry, in the beginning of the movie, he emerges in a diner, having crash landed, and he's like, you know, covered in soot, and his flight jacket's all messed up, and he's like really out of it, and everyone's staring at him in the diner because he looks like he literally came from space, and he chugs a whole glass of water quietly, and he whispers like, "Where am I?" And this little kid in the diner goes,
Earth.
Earth. And what's great about that kind of thing is that you really miss in watching something streaming at home is just the whole audience kind of enjoying the joke with you. One of my favorite movie experiences was watching Superbad in theaters when I was
Oh,
in high school
interesting.
with everybody in theaters, and no one was prepared for how funny that movie was going to be. It's like a seminal teen sex comedy, and just like enjoying that laughter with everyone else. Or like you said, The Dark Knight, right? Like everyone watches the truck flip, and you're like, "What? How did
Yeah.
you do that?" Right?
I know.
So
See, the communal experience is also part of the things that makes like comedy really good
yeah,
too.
yeah.
You know, like I've never actually seen Chappelle. I would love to, or Bill Burr, or even Joe Rogan. Like you know, these comedians, they all say they're like it's one thing watching it as a Netflix special, and it could be funny, but that communal aspect of going out to a show is different. It's also like when you watch a band, like you'd rather watch the live experience of watch the band play in front of you and talk to you and engage with you, as opposed to like a YouTube edit or something like that.
Yeah, because you get to be with friends. That's the whole point of the communal aspect. It's a trickle effect. When your buddy starts laughing, it's a little bit more funnier, obviously.
There's something to be said about being there in person, like in the concert hall, in the Hollywood Bowl, watching Dave Chappelle, like in the movie theater, to see it in the kind of like, very close experience that is just, you can't describe it into words, but it really does make the difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I'm just so glad that we're at this point now where we can start doing things like that again.
Yeah.
And so it's been great. It's been fun.
What if it's a Travis Scott concert?
Oh man, that guy who got those people who got like trampled or something like
and
that.
he didn't do anything about it on stage.
I think that's what they got at him for.
Well, that's what makes. I mean, can you enjoy his music knowing that? Like, now we talked about this in the last podcast previously on, is this like, can you separate the art from the artist if the artist is like a terrible person? Like there's a lot of movies that I really love with Kevin Spacey in it, but now it's like, hey, you want to watch Seventh? Ooh,
Yeah, wasn't he in trouble for like some sort of like sex thing?
He was accused of like raping dudes. Like
young dudes,
like adult, like pre-adult, like teens.
Oh,
so he wasn't just like a rapist; he was a pedophile rapist. Yeah.
Oh God.
Like a lot of people came forward. That's the thing. It's like if it's like multiple accusers with the same. I don't want to get into this. I don't want to talk about this on a podcast. There's so many podcasts I've talked about like this shit, but yeah, it's like, but you can't deny that like a lot of movies that feature Kevin Spacey in it are absolute classics, like Seven, like Usual Suspects. There's a really great financial movie that I love called Margin Call that he's in. That's really, really good too.
Okay.
We could talk about movies this whole podcast. It would go out of control.
How do you feel about like movies coming straight out to like streaming platforms?
I mean, I get it, and I'm fine with that. It's like really in my opinion, it's the consumer's choice. If you want to enjoy that theater experience, just go to the theater. If you want to just like be antisocial and stay at home, I totally get that and just do that. From like a creative perspective, I think that there is kind of this trend that I don't like. We talked about Disney earlier. Like if I have any criticism for Marvel movies, which I love, don't get me wrong, like I love those movies, is it almost feels like they're being made for streaming. They're made for, it's almost like those movies are being designed to be viewed on an iPad or on your phone while you're lying in bed, as opposed to sitting in a theater. And this is my little axe to grind. If you guys would indulge me.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
There's this great scene in Shang-Chi that I love where the main character is talking to Awkwafina, and he's like having this moment where he's like, oh, like I have to kill my dad. And it's this really intense emotional moment, and it's like kind of like a culmination of all of the relationship he had with his dad throughout the whole movie. But it's shot like it's a TV show where there's this really bright light behind him. And this is something I've noticed. Once you see it, you can't unsee it for me in a lot of Marvel movies, where it feels like less of a movie and more of the series finale or season finale of a really expensive TV show, where it's supposed to be viewed on an iPad instead of in a theater.
I'm trying to understand the
lighting.
If you could further like delineate,
it's soap opera lighting. If you watch Dune or you watch Batman, it feels like you're watching a film.
Are you saying the effect of the given storyline and the dialogue that's being presented is being watered down because of the way it looks?
It's literally the lighting. It literally looks like you're just watching like a very cheap paint by numbers TV show, but it's supposed to be this big budget Disney superhero movie that makes $1 billion, and obviously it doesn't ruin the experience for me, but I just can't unsee it.
I wonder if that's a conscious effort on the production side. Like, let's make it look this way so that they're inclined to be like, wait, what's going on here? Let's pay attention to the movie.
That's a very generous
I don't
take.
know.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that is.
I don't know.
Like, I should be nicer. Like, I'm sure that those people worked very hard and they still made a great product. I just, I don't know. I can't unsee it. where because I've been watching a lot of the Marvel TV shows,
Yeah.
and it looks the same. And then if it's like, well, if this feels like a TV show when I'm watching the movie, like Black Widow, Shang-Chi, it's like, I don't know. I can just tell the difference. And it's hard for me to not notice it.
Alfred, you have to indulge me on this one real quick because
Sure.
you both have watched Maverick already.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Tom Cruise haters. A lot of my buddies are mostly the female friends are not into him. But
I get the criticism.
I get is it because the acting style is because he's an action guy and it's like I'm tired and they're all like I'm tired of all the MI sequels 1, 2, 3 whatever. Is it because his acting is so is too hyper real? Like is it too like explain why you, Alfred, like you're a fan. Tom Cruise not terrible.
Fan.
I'm not.
I'll be honest, I am a fan. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm no hater, you know. What is it?
What is it about it?
Yeah.
It's I think it can all be summed up from a podcast he did like 10 years ago called The Nerdist, where he talked about how when he was on Taps, like when he first started making movies in the 80s, he would literally go up to everybody. The lighter, the boom mic operator, the makeup artist,
because he's so immersed.
The caterer, and he'd be like, "Tell me everything about what you do. Tell me like why you do it this way. Why do you do it that way?" Where he didn't go to film school, but he may as well have just like self-taught himself, and it kind of shows that like he clearly picks.
Wait, so he did not. He went to acting like
no, he didn't go to film
school.
He just like.
But he went to acting school. I don't know his history.
No, he didn't go to acting school. He just like. But what I'm saying is he taught himself literally every aspect of making a movie, and so to me it kind of indicates that like he's very interested in learning and he's very choosy about what he picks, and it's clear that like a lot of the things he picks are either super profitable or they're very memorable. The Mission Impossibles,
even though it's big budget Hollywood style.
Yeah, and he clearly like has unlocked the secret to success about making a successful movie, including timing, like we just talked about. And so, at the very least, when you watch most of his movies, you're like, oh, like whatever you feel about him personally, like you can't deny that he just really makes very interesting things to watch. In fact, one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies that I love this movie, I adore it, is The Last Samurai. And it's almost like almost has nothing to do with Tom Cruise. It almost has to do with Ken Watanabe, the whole setting, the story, the music, the score. Like, if you want to talk about the release of Top Gun Maverick, there's this great scene in The Last Samurai. Have you ever seen it?
Yes.
Where he's like,
I love that movie.
He's trying to keep the terrified army who's completely unprepared for the samurai coming through the fog to not fire too early, or else they'll miss. And they get scared and they fire too early, and then that's what caused them to get their asses kicked.
Yeah.
In part because they're inexperienced. And to me, it's like you gotta wait until the right time. So
you know what, Alfred? I'm actually in my head. I'm foolishly mixing it up with Crouching Tiger. It's totally different.
I think they also come out at
Mike,
the same time.
look up that meme with the Last Samurai. That says like the first weeaboo. That one was that's what got to me. I think that one was fucking
That
hilarious.
makes sense.
If I try to look up something again,
The first weeaboo, Tom Cruise. That one was a hilarious meme. look, it's an image. Just Google image it. It should be like one of the first ones. Right there, the first weeaboo. Put that on the screen. Holy shit, that's hilarious. Oh man. That's a good one. The first weeaboo. I remember like when I first learned what that word was. Because like apparently, some people look at that word as a derogatory word.
Yeah.
Because, it's like making fun of people who aren't Japanese but like Japanese things.
like culture. And,
Like that, like they like the culture.
manga.
Like I playfully use the word, and like I'm a weeb. I consider myself to be a weeb because I like Japanese things.
Yeah, I consider myself a weeb too.
Yeah,
It's a
because I like
stigma, is
anime.
what it is, yeah.
Yeah, but then it's also like there's that stigma. It's just like you just like Japanese things because of anime. It's like, well, half and half. I've been to Japan like 4 times, 5 times. I just love their culture, and I just like a lot of the things that they make, and I feel like they always work really hard. I feel like a lot of Asians work really hard in general, and the whole community out in Asia. like our drummer Keith lives in Singapore, and we talk almost like every day.
Hi, Keith.
Hi, Keith. But yeah, we talk almost every day about like culture here and culture in Asia, and how it's just like in America the culture is always just like, how can I get mine, versus like in Asia it's like, well, how can we help each other, well, unless you're in North Korea, or something. But like, yeah, it's just like a stark difference. But yeah, man, like I actually have a friend who lived in Japan for the last 6 years. He's coming back this Friday.
Wow.
And he's like really, really butthurt about it, and he's from here. He's from the Valley.
Wow.
I'm gonna have him on this podcast eventually.
Look forward to it.
Yeah. So
I was just talking about this with Jason, but what I really like about this podcast, and I mean this in a good way, is it's to really enjoy this. It's almost serialized. You have to do your homework and listen to the previous episodes, because when you listen to like other podcasts, often the guests won't reference previous episodes because why should they? They're busy. But I'm not saying that we're not busy, but I really like how over the past few months that I've been listening to this, I've been learning a lot about Filipino culture, about K-pop, which in a way is kind of embarrassing for me as a Korean. But and also about you.
More on that later.
You just learn about like your past, and you just like so it's just.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
See if you can move the mic a little closer to you.
Okay.
There you go, Alfred.
Like
Yeah.
almost. Yeah. Oh shit.
Oh, it's a little limp. Oh, there we go.
Just because it's like it's more of like a thing issue, a leveling issue.
Oh yeah. I know that some guests it's like I gotta turn it up a bit, but it is what it is.
See if you can also move the whole stand like to your right a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So it's just like more angled towards your mouth. But yeah,
you guys have great guests, and you guys are really good at making people feel comfortable, and I do want to learn more about you guys too. I know last time I was here, I asked you about why you guys or how it started as a band, but I'm really fascinated to learn about like how you guys are as people.
Well,
Tim is one of my favorite people that I've ever met since moving.
The feeling
to
is reciprocal, reciprocated.
Mm-hmm. Very interested, and you have a great curiosity. And you talked about, I mentioned this earlier before the podcast, how this year you mentioned it a couple times in the past few episodes, how you're trying to develop this attitude of not being bitter or not like letting things go and not being too hyper focused on things that make you upset. And I think that's such a necessary, vital level of maturity that we all need to obtain to stay sane in these times. So.
Well,
I admire it.
There's like so many things to get upset about.
Yeah.
But it's just like, like harboring resentment is very corrosive, That being said, there's some things that I'm not saying just let everything happen.
Oh, sure.
Like people walk all over you. I'm not saying that, but I'm also saying like, look, like, there are some boundaries where you just don't cross them, and it's just a matter of like, making sure that you protect yourself too, especially when we were younger and we had the capacity to deal with these things where it's just like, if people want to do whatever. I just feel like now I'm like almost pretty much into my mid 30s. It's just kind of like, dude, sometimes I just don't have the capacity to deal with things. And I have a lot of other things that I'm more worried about and care more about, that like this maybe seemingly, hopefully, little thing is just something that, if it's a recurring thing, that's a different issue.
You tie it back to you talked about your parents, like our dads, and how they kind of like have been hoarding a bunch of stuff for various reasons. We've all tried to figure out why, but like there's almost kind of a decluttering of your mind, right? Like, am I going to hold on to this pile of anger magazines that just make me angry thinking about this past feeling, and it's good to just kind of let it go.
Yeah. It's really difficult, though, dealing with the previous generations. Sometimes I think about how the previous generation really is or was, and sometimes it's just like problems you just can't fix. Like my sister is 6 years younger than I am, and she tends to get like kind of upset about these things that my dad like says or does. But I just tell her like it's just their generation. That's just how they were, and that was acceptable in their time. And he just carries it over to today, where some things that he says or does probably isn't acceptable anymore. But I also don't blame him for it because that's just the generation he grew up in. So like at the end of the month, they're gonna go visit my uncles in the Bay Area, and they're gay, and I love them to death. You know, shout out Uncle Randy and Uncle Jay, love you guys. I love shopping with them because I love their commentary. You know, like last time I went shopping with them, we were in Miami, and I just loved listening to their commentary on clothes. And I like how sometimes they'll point out to something and say, "Oh, that's gay," and I'm like, "You can say that." I mean, maybe they can say it because they are gay, but like I was like, "Dude, I can't say that because I'm not gay." But it's just funny. I love their commentary, and they're like, "Oh, this is what you want to wear if you want to be a slut," or something like that. And it's just like, dude, I love their commentary, and they're super like, you know, progressive and super nice, and you know, they're really really accommodating people, and they're really cool. So you know, this being Pride Month, they're gonna have like the gay Mecca is in San Francisco. They're gonna have like a parade over there, and my sister and my cousins, my aunts, they want to all go up there and, you know, like support and just like be with family, you know, which is really the whole thing. And the thing is, like, my mom was willing to drive up there and like rent a car because she just wanted to drive, even if like, it wasn't with my dad. But my dad, you know, that's also his family. He wanted to go. My uncles made a reservation for all of them to go to this gay burlesque show or something. And my mom was getting upset because my dad didn't want to go to that. And you know, she was getting really mad. I'm like, Mom, don't get mad. The fact that he's already going up there is already a huge plus. You can't force him to do these things that he's just like, especially in their generation, they're like, men had to be men. You know, like you're asking a lot for him to just go to this kind of show. He has to willingly want to go. You can't like force his hand with a ticket to go and he doesn't even want to go. Like if anything, he's going to be driving, he should probably be resting instead of going to a show anyway, you know? So, and my sister was also getting upset too. It was just like, dude, like this is just the last generation, you know, like they're probably a generation going out where it's like unacceptable to go to these kind of shows or whatever, you know? But it's not like he hates my uncle, you know, like he supported them when they got married. You know, he went to their wedding. He took pictures, I think. It's just that, you know, to do something like that, it's a little out of his comfort zone. And he's at this age now where it's like, dude, you don't have to try new things if you don't want to, you know? It's totally acceptable. I just think that that's the last generation. And that's kind of how I look at all our dads, you know, like, or at least their generation, where it's just kind of like, you know, I don't expect his dad to go to a gay burlesque show, you know, unless he fully, like, I would go to one. Like, no, I don't think I've ever been to one. But I'm open-minded to it. I'm willing to try it, willing to see it. It's just that I wouldn't actually like go there for the intention of meeting guys, you know, like I just want to meet friends, make friends, and be open-minded, you know.
I think it's really mature you had this take about our parents. I think so many of us, I know I am going to spend the rest of my life trying to figure out my dad, but I think it's really important, like you said, to just kind of accept them for who they are. Yeah. Without judging them. It's like when I was in high school and college, I'm like, I hated my dad for all these reasons that we all do, right? But then you know, my mom told me about his mom and the conditional love that she gave was really messed up, even to like the end of her life. And wow. It's like this like hurt people kind of thing where he was victimized and he just acted this way with my older brother, and he's like, but I recognize that the man that was a jerk to my brother and me and my sister is no longer exists. All that's left in front of me is this old man, and to accept that, like you're right, like it's the world is rapidly changing on a logarithmic scale, and things that were like cool 5 years ago are now totally unacceptable. And so people in his age, it's hard to adapt to that. You know, your mind becomes concrete, and it's not an excuse, but it's just an explanation. And I think that you're right. Like as you get older, like, do I want to hold on to this resentment for this version of my dad that no longer exists, or maybe never did, or do I want to just kind of not let that version of my dad live in my head rent free? Yeah. Like even like 2 months ago, you want to ask how I've been doing since last time. I got into a fight with my girlfriend because I was like kind of obsessing over finances. We call it in our relationship, we call it zoomies. Like whenever like a dog or a cat like just ate or just pooped or just had a bath, they like run around for no reason. And so we call it like, she's like, oh, like Fred, you have the financial zoomies because you're just like talking way too fast and thinking way too fast, and we're having an argument But she realized it's like the week before I went to the cemetery to like do this biannual cleaning of the headstones of my grandparents with my parents, and we had a picnic and we were just talking, and my dad just got in my head. He's like, when are you gonna get money to get a house? When are you and your girlfriend gonna make more money to like have kids? And it just kind of like messed with my head, where this version of my dad lived in my head rent free and like kind of fuck with my brain. And it's like, oh, that's not really me talking, obsessing over the money issue, right? This is just something that he's always been obsessed about his whole life. He's always had the financial zoomies ever since I've known him, but it's not me, and I don't want it to kind of drive me crazy or ruin my whole life or negatively affect my relationship.
You don't want to fill those shoes.
No,
so to speak,
I mean, don't we all have an obligation to be better than our parents?
A better version, yeah.
At the very least, like emotional maturity wise, emotional intelligence, EQ or whatever they call it, right? To be able to.
It's it's very much swept under the rug. That notion of like let's feel it, let's talk it out. It's perhaps a big part of Asian culture in general.
Or maybe immigrant culture.
Immigrant
like
culture, yeah. To be more.
All they do is make money. Yeah.
Sure.
I feel like it's just like especially. I think we talked about this last time, where it's just like feelings were never really ever discussed, but that's because they also had like third world problems.
Yeah, you talked about how your parents came from like poverty, right?
Yeah.
And then like to the choice they have to make, like be a nurse, it's a safe choice, or sorry, I don't want to bring this up, or like do this career and make money and like save and like keep all your stuff, and this is why we hoard.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's like, okay, our children, us, are in our 30s and they're doing well for themselves, and now they're asking us to confront our emotions with tools that we never developed as youth because we're too busy immigrating and working. I'm not excusing my dad. I'm just trying to explain, and by understanding where he's coming from and like the way his mom was and this kind of generational pain, it does make me a lot less anxious or zoomy or whatever you want to call it.
Zoomy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we older, we now understand where they came from.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I think my dad, he tried to do much better for himself when he was growing up. He came from the Philippines to here through the Navy. So it was a huge amount of like him joining the Navy, coming here by himself, pretty much. He had some family here, but very, very limited. Like, could you imagine being a first generation like immigrant, like from another country, third world country at that, and then you make it here? I'm extremely happy and proud of my dad, and because of him, all my other cousins have their lives here because he brought over his brothers and sisters and his mom, and all this stuff. So plus he served in the military here. So I'm so proud of him for what he did and what he's done. Like I can't really ask a whole lot from him. He's done a lot. I don't think I have the toughness to do what he did.
He's a human being, right? Yeah. Like I think about how like my dad never physically beat me. He never sexually assaulted me. He always provided for me financially. He gave me a roof on my head. He fed me.
Yeah.
Like he was there. You know what I mean? That he wasn't a drug addict. He wasn't an alcoholic. A lot of parents are. It is what it is. And I think just recognizing the nuance and cutting him some slack to cut myself some slack, right? If we're gonna get deep on this podcast, I'm sorry, because I do love talking about inane shit. I think for me, what's really, because of what you talked about, your New Year's resolution of letting things slide off your back like water off a duck's butt is to me, it's just like just being kinder, like cutting yourself some slack, being nicer to yourself, just being like, do I want to hold on to this resentment or anger about this idea of my parents or my ancestors or my culture or my this or that? Or do I want to just move on with my life and just try to be happy, right?
There's also like me and Keith talked about this too, where it's just like, there's just also a way of like how our parents communicated to us that was also just unique in a sense where it's just like, dude, you don't even remember what they were talking to you about, but you definitely remember the feeling, right? Because absolutely. It was almost always like met with anger and shouting and disappointment and like that look on your face. It's like that's all what people remember. Even now, that's what people remember more. it's like they don't even remember what you talk about because sometimes they don't even change, but it's more like the tone of your voice, or it's just like that's what they remember.
Did
You know?
did in Filipino culture in America, did you guys have kumon, or is that just a Korean thing? Do you guys know what kumon is?
Isn't that
Yeah,
that
I
learning
attended one.
thing?
Oh God, I feel like kumon is exactly what you're talking about. Kumon, for people who don't know, is this bullshit math prep after school program. What I love about it, my brother pointed out, is that if you Google the logo of Kumon, the O is a face, and the face is not smiling. The face looks miserable because that's what it is.
Look this up, Mike.
I want the audience to Google
put this up.
the
Yeah, look
logo
at
of
the O, look at
Kumon,
the O.
because what Kumon is like you're in some shitty windowless room with like folding chairs and fluorescent lighting, and you just do math homework problems over and over and over and over again. And all my teachers
it.
at the time
PIP me in this.
were these really mean Koreans who were like so angry if I didn't figure out the math correctly. But no one teaches you because they want to teach you the way they were taught, which is you just drill it until you get it, no matter how long it takes. And I feel like that's a perfect
Wow.
microcosm of just like you said.
Now,
Of like,
Alfred, here's what happened to the Kumon that I attended. It caught
Please,
fire, and
please.
now it's gone.
arson.
It was Jason. He hated it.
The
Arson-
logo.
arsonist,
It's like
yeah.
they're leaning into like, yeah, we know the kids are miserable. We know that this is going to make them hate math. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, that face
I
is
still
not
hate it.
happy.
It's not happy.
That face is not happy at all.
It's like you rip the happiness and joy out of a kid.
Oh my
That's what
God.
Kumon is. And I don't even know if it's effective. But and for years,
No.
my dad would be very passive aggressive. He'd be like, "Well, this is what you get for quitting Kumon when you were 6." And I'm like, "Dad, I'm 30."
That looks more like "come on." That looks more like some sort of porn title now. I've never taken Kumon. I've only ever heard of it. I know my cousin took it when we were growing up, but that's all I know about it. It's not like I didn't even. Is that Korean
I have
in
no idea.
nature? Well, what does it say, Mike? What does it say about Kumon and the history
You
and
read
blah
about
blah
their
blah? I
logo.
thought I saw something in there.
It's so nice you guys have Mike. Mike's great. And it's,
Fuck
it's
yeah,
as you
dude.
guys are expanding.
Mike is a very welcome addition to Indescendants and a very key cog in the operations that we have.
Because
now.
he helps prevent the interruption of the flow of the conversation. Because you said about the audio recording and the video recording.
Oh, I know, because now the flow is just like us talking. Now we don't have to worry about stop, start, and then chopping it up later. In post. This bakes right in. So this is a
Bakes
huge
right in.
improvement to our last podcast iterations.
Is it Korean?
It looks Japanese, or no. It does look Asian rather. Takeshi, that sounds Japanese though.
Oh, expand it to Tokyo,
Look at
buddy.
that photo.
Toru Kumon.
The guy, the
Toru
the
sounds
adult's like,
Japanese.
I'm gonna make this kid never smile again, and that's the last photo of that kid smiling before he does math drills. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell in the microphone. Math drills.
He said, "Let's go back inside and do
So
those
so it
times
is. It's
tables."
Japanese then, huh? It's got to be. I mean, those are Japanese names: Takeshi, Toru.
Let me take it to the first sentence.
Secret.
Kumon method of learning was born from one father's love for his child in 1954.
Love for his child.
Then why is the logo a sad logo or like a
Mike, can you
flat
Google that?
faced
Why
logo?
is the Kumon logo so sad?
Hey, it was not fun for me in first grade. They thought they could, my folks thought I could get a head start in I don't know, math skills. And it didn't help.
Thinking
Oh.
face.
Thinking face.
I don't know.
Thinking,
For
that
me-
does
for
not
everyone
look
who
like
ever
a
attended
thinking
Kumon,
face.
Yeah, it just looks like they're just leaning into the reality.
Dude, it
We
looks
know-
more
we know
like
his pain.
looks more like this, like sad face.
I
Like
don't
that.
wanna
That
do-
looks like the Kumon face.
I don't want to do my times tables.
Dude, nobody fucking loves doing homework. I never liked doing homework. Come on, dude.
No, dude. Not
But they made it worse.
What a challenge. though.
Imagine if there was like a drummer school and the logo was like bloody fingertips. Like that's what.
Like Whiplash.
That's what.
Whiplash
Yes,
school.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
love that
oh my god, I
love
fucking
that movie.
love that movie.
Okay, let's talk about this movie. For me, what I love about this movie, partially because it's so relatable to so many Asian children who like
Who grew up playing musical instruments.
I think what's great about the movie is that it ends on a really bleak bad note. Because to me, the question the movie is raising is the cost of greatness self-destruction? And the end of the movie is yeah, because like even the director said like,
Spoiler alert.
and the director said like you have to imagine this kid played by Miles Teller who was in Top Gun.
Right.
that
Oh.
he does achieve this amazing greatness where he gets acceptance from his teacher.
Right.
But the director imagines that character 10 years later, like dead with a heroin needle in a ditch. Like it's like this.
The director died?
No. The director imagines the character, the main character.
Oh, he imagined
the
him.
main drummer. Like
Yeah.
he becomes an addict because to create that greatness, you have to just completely destroy who you are as a person. The final shot of his dad looking through the corner of the curtains at his son, he's not like proud of him for achieving this great drum solo. He's horrified because you had to destroy his humanity
everything he had to go
to
build up to that
to
moment.
be the best. Like even when you think about like Olympic athletes, right? Like gymnasts, like the greatness they have to achieve is at the cost of their childhoods, where you can tell that their parents like push them and push them and push them and push them, and that's why they're the best. They get a gold medal, but at the cost of what? Like everything else. You know, they never like had a fun sleepover playing GoldenEye on N64 with their peers. They did flips again and again until their fingers split.
See, you know what I loved about that movie, and I
love that
tell
movie.
this to Mike.
I love that movie.
You know, with Whiplash, that very last second to third last shot where, you know, him and J.K. Simmons lock eyes.
Yeah.
That's that entire movie or that entire plot line built up to that point where he got the nod from J.K. Simmons'
Finally
character.
getting the approval.
Getting approval. That's everything that he fucking wanted.
Yes.
Was that look.
Yeah.
Right before he hit like the big rock end or jazz ending.
Yeah.
You know, like with all the crashes and all that stuff. Like he looked at him and he gave him the nod of approval, and that's everything that he absolutely wanted.
Because in the beginning of the movie, like the famous scene is that J.K. Simmons completely, like a drill instructor, breaks him down psychologically as a human being. And so, yeah, like of course Miles Teller character is desperate for his approval. God, I love that movie. That movie is so good.
It's such a good movie, especially if you're like a musician like we are.
Yeah.
Like I appreciate it because I also grew up playing musical instruments. I had a teacher who was like that. She was like, so I grew up playing piano. That was my first musical instrument.
Yeah.
And she was this old Filipino lady. And, you know, like these old Filipino ladies from that generation of being Filipino means hit you in the hand with a fucking ruler
I was gonna
or
ask.
smack your hand or something like that, or take your hand and make you play the right notes. Like I remember she would be so fucking mad like if I played a wrong note or if I didn't play at the right tempo or with the right like dynamic where it's just like it needs to be forte or it needs to be piano.
Did it
You
give
know,
you a
like-
sense of fear and anxiety?
Hell yeah. That's the point, I guess. And then after that, I started seeing like a much less aggressive teacher, and then I didn't play piano at all after that. I stopped playing piano probably at like my sophomore year of high school. Like I go into a piano lesson rather, you know. And to me, like playing piano was more of a chore.
Right.
You know, I
Right.
didn't like it, but it did open some gateway for me to play instruments, obviously. So I do thank my mom for that,
Sure.
you know, for doing that. Because she's like, and I hear this from even like our generation of Filipinos who didn't grow up with instruments. They're like, I want my children to learn because I never got to learn a musical instrument. And
I love that.
And then
That's
like,
nice.
you know, like especially when they say like I've always wanted to learn, but I never got a chance. Like I want to give you this gift. I never saw it as a kid because I fucking hated going to the teacher because she would smack my hand or like, you know, all that shit. And then I just didn't, you know, like, the grass is always greener, man. Like there's always these opportunities where we complain about things, but really the grass is greener. And I say that because like when I grew up with these piano teachers, they were trying to teach me classical music like Fur-Elise, Beethoven, you know, Chopin, Mozart, all these things that, you know, like I feel like is a rite of passage when you learn piano and all this stuff. I wanted to learn like Queen, like Elton John, Billy Joel, this kind of stuff, you know, like stuff that's relatable or stuff like Journey, you know, that kind of thing, right? Which I learned eventually, but I felt like I wish I learned that instead. On the flip side, Derek, who's been on this podcast previously and will be here on Friday, he was only taught these pieces of music where like modern, like he learned Candle in the Wind by Elton John and Piano Man, which he kind of taught himself, and all these other modern songs. But he never learned the classics. And you know what he told me? He's like, I wish I got to learn like the classics, like, you know, this and that, like Fur-Elise, which he knows Fur-Elise by fucking heart. He's fucking amazing at it. If there's one song that I can count on my life for, he'll play Fur-Elise like perfectly.
I think that's the thread that's a needle that you have to thread, right? As a parent. By the way, I sat my parents down a couple weeks. I want to tell you this. I said, Mom, Dad, I've been meaning to tell you this for years, but I don't want to have kids. And they took it really well.
Nice.
My mom was like, "Oh, that's okay, Alfred." I'm sorry to all the honest members. I always make it sound like my mom emigrated yesterday whenever I do her voice, but she does sound like that.
Thanks for being accurate, man.
Yeah, but my dad, he was like a little disappointed, but he understood, and his reasons were like very selfish, and he admitted that, but that's fine. But for me, it's like, how do you thread the needle of like you do want, because like kids don't get that like really to get good at anything, you just have to hunker down and practice, and that's boring, and it sometimes feels like a chore. It sucks, and like regret, the pain of regret is a lot worse, but it's without the fine line of like crossing over into child abuse.
Yeah,
where you
I mean,
just
I have the utmost respect for real classically trained musicians, because that they I don't want to say the word succumb, but they kind of like took the beating, and if they're very well good enough, they have that level of discipline, and it's like, and they're good. They were shaped into shape. But sometimes I will say that when you're a classically trained musician, they're kind of rough on the edges. They're unable to sort of improvise. They can't freestyle very well. They can't jam. They can't be in a jam session with other musicians that are maybe learned like the Berklee College of Music or whatever pop style of harmony and theory. So maybe the Juilliard.
I mean, if you
Berklee folks don't get along.
Right,
or I don't know.
But if you push them too hard, does
Yeah.
it get to the point where like the kid is burnt out and they never want, like you said, I don't want to touch a piano ever again. I don't want to look at it. And then you're like, oh, years later, you're like, oh man, I wish I kept at it.
See, that's the thing too. It's like,
Sorry.
I think our generation is just different. You know, like we have different goals for what our futures want to be. Like, whereas like before, like the previous generation, like our parents, like I think they did so well for what they, you know, what they wanted to do, which was move to this country,
Have 5 kids,
have children, have a house,
Yeah.
and you know, have a job, and then just retire. I think they did amazing. They set out to do what they set out to do.
props to them.
And I appreciate all our parents. You know, I think they accomplished their goal. But I think it's also disheartening for them because in a conservative way, they want the same for you. They want to see that you're working hard. They want to see that you have a good job, which, you know, you do. And then also they want to see that you pass on and you have children. But that's also an affirmation for them too. Like, you know, that's the thing. That's the thing. I always look at grandchildren for grandparents as an affirmation that they did a good job.
It's a capstone
Right.
of all their hard work.
It's exactly, that's it. When and this is true for like even his parents who kind of hound him about having like grandchildren, you know, as I've heard, where it's just like that to them is a validation that, you know, what I did was right. You know, that's how I see it, you know, or that's how I broke it down. You know, but my parents never get on me about like grandchildren. To them, their success was us getting an education and not being a bum, you know, not living on the street, you know, and making sure that we have like a good paying job and all this kind of stuff. Like to them, that's what they wanted. And right now that's what we have, you know, like me and my sister, we're both nurses and we're not starving, you know, and that's what to them, that's success. At least, you know, that's what they tell me. And they never, ever bring up this question about grandchildren or relationships. They just want to make sure that we're happy. We're doing, you know, like living a good life and that we're not going to starve, you know.
I do feel fortunate.
And to that's and that's to them, that generation, it's not just my parents. I feel like every generation is like that. So when we get these feelings that they're hounding us about something, it's because they're really just genuinely worried that, you know, but it's not always the same too, because it's like, our methods of success nowadays, we're more in tune with this, right? It's way different. Like, could you imagine being that like influencer kid who drives a Lambo, you know, like, and yet like we have to slave away at a job, but all he has to do is drive to the gas station and he makes like $26 million.
I have the times have changed.
Like, fuck, dude, all you got to do is just post it on social media. Bam, you're done. What an easy job, you know, but that, I mean, in some definition, that's how successful, right? because like they're making money. They're probably very spoiled at it, you know. And I have my conservative views on it, but you know what? Like they're making money. Like I can't be too much of a hater. They did something right, you know, whatever it was. But yeah, I feel like that generation, they're conservative in that sense. They just want, so maybe the reason why your dad was disappointed is because he feels like, you know, for him, that's not a criteria for success. Where in your mind, it's like, look, my well-being is what's, you know, and children are very taxing.
I mean, thank you for saying that. I think it's important to recognize that to all my parents, including my Filipino grandma coworkers who decided to mother me at work. Like I understand where it's coming from.
Shout out to Bebs, Maria.
I love you, Maria.
I love you guys.
I love you guys.
I miss you guys. I don't get that anymore. Like I honestly. Oh, speaking of parents, hi
Hello.
Tita. Oh no, he's been here before.
It's nice to meet you.
That's
That's Alfred. Oh yeah, he's been here before. He'll be here again. That's Jason's
There's some
mom.
food there.
Oh yeah,
They
we
cook-
cooked some food for you, Tita. We have some steak and cheese mushrooms. Dude, those mushrooms came out
They
so
were really good.
I'm very I was trying something new today with the mushrooms.
You did a
honestly.
good job. You did a
Like,
good job. They were
honestly.
savory and they were filling. But
Yeah.
I think we're very lucky. We have like parents who like give a damn. I mean, obviously, there's definitely like Korean parents out there who are like, "Why don't you have grandkids? Why are you not marrying a Korean woman? What's wrong with Koreans?"
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the strongest with Armenians. I'm not trying to be racist. This is my observation. Armenians are very particular about being only with Armenians and very, very conservative about their culture. But I also understand they went through like a genocide.
Yeah.
You know? So naturally, I think the mentality from generations on is just to preserve that, to preserve it. Right, because you know they went through a lot in the early 1900s, you know, which fucking sucks, you know, and no race should have to go through genocide for whatever reason, you know, and that's definitely like an old way of thinking, you know, and by old way I mean like pre-1950s,
It's a
like
purge.
you know,
Yeah.
purge.
There's nothing wrong with like, and this is I wouldn't even call the phrase playing it safe. I'll be like, oh, I want to date only Koreans or only Armenians. If
Yeah.
you have cultural compatibility, or like you guys have similar childhoods, it's a lot easier to mesh.
Yeah, and relate
Yeah.
and to grow old.
Yeah.
You know, you'll understand each other at a very maybe primal aspect, but which is totally fine. You know, if you want to keep it in house, you know, whatever it is.
I mean, it's really admirable for people to have interracial marriages or relationships, but it's hard. It's still
It can be
hard.
very
Yeah.
difficult, especially depending on the open-mindedness of
Family
individuals.
members, Yeah.
You know, that being said, like it could be like a religion thing too. You know, I dated somebody who was outside. I was outside of their religion. You know, and they have a very strict religious code to only date people within their religion. You know, which I think is very exclusive in a bad way. And you know, we had a falling out, me and this girl. I really genuinely loved her, and I think about her sometimes. You know,
I'm sorry.
I felt like she was like a really awesome person, and if it wasn't for religion, it would have worked out the whole way through.
Because
The whole way through.
the religion kind of forces that person to be like, you have to choose between Tim and your family. And then
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and exactly. And her family was pressuring her as we kept on dating. You know, she was still dating me, but it was, you know,
they want to convert you?
They wanted to convert me. I actually was open-minded. I went to a few of their church sessions, whatever they call them. But I couldn't help but get the feeling that it was very culty.
It's not for you. If you,
You know,
don't
and it
feel-
wasn't for me. And I just told her, and I still stick to this very day. Love knows no religion. You know, how is it that a Jew and a Catholic can get married, have children, and have an agreement, but like with certain religions, it's not? But you know, like, who am I to say how to run your religion? You know, so we just broke it off. You know, and I probably said some very immature words to her. Sorry if you're watching this for whatever reason. She was a good friend of Caitlin, by the way. You know, who was a previous guest
Great
here.
podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Shout out to you,
Shout out to you,
Shout outs.
Caitlin.
Kelly,
You
you're
know,
amazing. You're very extroverted, and you just got that joie de vivre that I really admire. So.
yeah, she's a really awesome person. But yeah, you know, like I honestly, like when it comes to like relationships, it's very interesting to make certain things work. And I've been noticing also lately a lot of couples nowadays just don't want to have children anymore, which is more of our generation's kind of thing, because we kind of see what happens to kids, and we kind of see what it took to raise kids, and now that there's so many other different things to do in a freer world, we don't have to limit ourselves to just having children and calling it success. There's other methods of success, and passing on legacies and whatever you want to call it, Like the fact that you don't want to have children, I think is very admirable. And that's okay.
Thanks. The door's not closed. Like I might adopt. I could change my mind in a couple years, but just for the past 6 to 8 years, I just didn't feel like all the reasons, right? Like the money, the world is on fire, blah, blah, blah. But also just like, I just don't feel, ready's not the right word. I just don't feel it right now. And
I'm just not feeling it. It's not your flavor.
Jason, would you ever have kids?
That's a tough one.
I don't know is a good answer.
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. It's I'm not shooting it down. Not shooting down the possibility.
Honestly, I'm not opposed to having children, but it's like I'm way too selfish right now, so I'm not feeling it. Because I understand that when you have children, and I see this because some of the people in our age demographic are having children, they have to give up a lot to raise a kid. And I'm totally fucking selfish right now. What I mean by that is just like, dude, I want to do this podcast. I want to have projects. I want to do stuff that I want to do. I want to travel. All of that comes to like a screeching halt if you want to raise a child. And those are the key words. If you want to.
If you want to be a decent parent. Yeah.
If you want to be a decent parent. You got to be there.
Yeah.
You got to be there. None of this like
if you care.
hanging out with friends and, forgetting about your kid, which some of my friends do.
Ooh, left at daycare. So
yeah, well.
I mean, that's true. It's the truth. You know what? I think you really you just touched on something that I really want to talk about today, which is like I keep thinking about how if you were to consume certain types of media, you would think that the entire world is going to hell. And in many ways, a lot of what's happening in the world right now is getting worse, and that sucks. And I thought to myself, like, how do you change the world? How do you solve the world's problems? Well, I think the first thing, because I've been thinking about this question a lot.
Damn it, Alfred! I wish I didn't have to go. Gosh dang it.
Right now?
In a few. I'll let you definitely continue, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, no, go for it. Please.
We're about an hour in.
Yeah.
I just feel like the first thing you got to do is recognize that you can't. You can't change the world. You can't fly anywhere. You don't have superpowers. But what you can do is show up, right? For your friends, for their podcasts, for your kids at work, or for yourself. And I think eventually you keep doing this and the world changes around you. And for me, it's like I just want to, now that I'm in my 30s, I just want to show up. Like I want to drive to San Francisco more often and see my nephew. I want to show up. I don't want to be that uncle like I had in the East Coast that I saw once a year. Like I want to show up and be there. And I think just doing that for your friends, for your nephew and nieces, for yourself, that really is like one of the ways that we can make the world a better place.
Yeah,
That's what
check in. It's a totally selfless thing to do. Check in, communicate.
Showing up for yourself isn't necessarily selfish. I think showing up for yourself, you are kind of like making the world a better place. You think
it is ironic though to think that social media was meant to bridge our relationships further, or perhaps strengthen them, but really it's not. I felt like all social media tries to do now is piss you off and separate you even further, because and this is especially true with a lot of political things.
Hell yeah.
They love, by they I mean anybody, not just particular one side, left or right. I'm saying anybody. They will use and weaponize social media for an agenda, and it just sucks. It's so corrosive. I hate looking at it.
You're preaching to the choir, my friend. I feel like a lot of 24-hour news media, like the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the Fox News especially, emotionally abuses their audience. And I think social media, like they've talked about this, like the Twitters and the Facebooks. They know that like the thing that makes money is clicks, and the things that generate clicks is anger and outrage. Yes. But that's toxic. It's corrosive. They've even like told people who are interviewing at those companies like Facebook, look, like we know that we're just giving digital heroin to kids, but it makes money and we don't care. And you're right. Like it has made things worse because it made you hate someone that if you sat them down in a podcast and actually really hashed out their views on homelessness, on crime, on drugs, on politics, you guys would have a lot more in common than you think.
Homelessness, unsolvable problem. That unsolvable problem.
If we just talk about that issue, we could talk about that for 5 hours. But I know that. Sorry, Jason. Jason's got to go. Jason, I really wanted to connect with you and look at you eye to eye, but Mike's head is in the way. Move your head, Mike. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll
Sorry.
recalibrate.
Well,
for next time.
for the
I'm
next
kidding, I'm kidding.
podcast, we'll move
I
Jason
love you,
this
Mike.
way.
I'm
It's a sign
So
that
that we
we
can
have
see.
to continue and
Please
come back.
I
Please come
want-
back for round 3, please.
I'm grateful that you guys invited me out here again, and I want to come back soon and keep talking. You guys
we'll
are
we'll
great
try to
talk
aim for next week. You know,
All right.
if
will.
Let's make it happen.
possible.
Let's make it happen.
We'll try to make something work, and hopefully Josh this time can go.
Yeah,
Hopefully he's
man.
okay.
That'd be great.
You know, Josh, if you're watching, I really wish you were here, bro. I really wanted you to be here, and I
We
was
love you,
really,
dude.
I was really saddened that you couldn't come. But hey, you know what? Next week I'll try to make these mushrooms again. You know, I really want you to try them.
They're
Show,
magic.
if you want to get cross, you can.
No, not that kind. Not that kind.
Yeah,
Unless
but whatever, man. Like these are just legit mushrooms that I got at Costco. You know, none of this like I don't even know where to look for those kinds of things for. But anyway, yeah, dude. Like it's just like a whole different thing with social media, you know. And I try to stay off of it. I really only use it as I try to look for funny shit, or if I ever post things, it's funny shit. It's stuff that I find funny,
You have
like
to curate
Lloyd.
it. Yeah.
Like Lloyd fucking sticking his tongue out
Oh,
with Table
I
of
love
Plenty.
I am your number one fan, Lloyd. I am your number one fan.
wait, I think Lloyd said. I think he's the one, Mike. Right? Mike, was he the one that said he uses Bing and I should use Bing?
Maybe.
Was it Lloyd?
I don't know. You'll have to look.
Yeah, I
it
think
up
he
through the
was
file.
the one who said Bing. Yeah.
Right. Oh, see,
Bing?
thank you, Alfred.
Damn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred.
It's okay. I don't have a shrine to you.
Let's look at
Yet.
the comments. What did they say about Caitlin Faye and me? I'm such a man. We'll
You
talk.
should, hey Mike, look up some of these comments on our social, on
They're
our
so
YouTube.
positive.
I'm
You guys
such a
have
fan.
You guys have a good fandom. You got they're non-toxic. They're very healthy.
Go
Better be.
look up our Endeavor video. Was it you said?
Yeah, you mentioned because like I just wrote it's a beautiful song because it is. It's a good piece of art that I enjoy listening to. And you guys are really talented. I get why you guys consider it your flagship.
You know, Jason's put out some pretty dope ass tracks.
We're cooking.
Like
We're cooking again.
Cooking again. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to put out some more songs.
Can you put out some more stuff about mixing and like optimizing your acoustic life?
Speaking of which,
Yes.
I think, and every time Mike moves his mouse, we get a little bzzz.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
tied to
that's what it
videos,
is.
yeah, we need
And I hope you don't get shocked, Mike. Don't touch anything.
That's
metal.
fine. I wonder if it's also because of the proximity to.
It's
things?
when
No.
I put video on the browser.
Oh, okay.
So right now, is there buzz?
Well, no, I don't hear
No,
anything.
okay. I won't put it.
Sorry, folks. We're actually like trialing stuff right now. It's just funny.
Thanks for
But
bearing
whatever,
with us.
dude. It's like this just goes to show we're not trying to edit a whole lot here. You know, we're trying to make things as
What you see
organic
is
as
what
possible.
you get. You know,
Yeah, what you see is what you get.
we're not hiding anything.
Where's Alfred's comment here?
Actually, well, I mean,
Go to not the live one. Go to the
Oh, I like this
studio
one. Dang, the
maybe.
guitarist doesn't even know his own song. Because I was messing up, and that's okay.
Well, I mean, it happened. I'm just interested to know that these people are very keen on, you know, knowing these things. Go look up the Indescendants Endeavor studio version. Just go to our YouTube channel. Yeah, check it out real quick while you're doing that. But yeah, damn. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, dude, we've had all these awesome guests and these podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
There
this
it
is a
is.
great
Hey,
podcast.
you just passed it. Go down. Endeavor. Endeavor.
And devour.
Endeavor. Yeah, it's like right, not the live one. Keep going down there. There it is. Endeavor Studio, live studio session. Right above that one that you're just clicking on. There it is. Is this the one you commented on?
I think so.
There it is. Where is?
Oh, it's when you scroll the mouse.
Oh, there it is.
Right there.
Alfred Kim, beautiful song.
Thanks.
It is. So what you said? Damn, 6 replies.
That's what I'm saying.
What? What does it say? What? Read some of these, Mike. Read them into the mic.
Dudley, you're such a beautiful person, Alfred. I love your podcast.
You are such a beautiful person, Alfred. I loved your podcast with this amazing band, and I can't wait to hear you again. Hey, guess what? You're hearing him again.
Keisha
This is for you.
Dudley.
This is for you, darling.
You're beautiful. I loved your podcast. Please come back. Come.
We got a
spelled
Kayla. I'm not gonna butcher her last name. You are beautiful,
You are such a beautiful man,
Mr.
Fredward.
Fredward.
What the hell? That's not even your name. They got it wrong.
It's okay. People call me Fredward all the time.
Fredward is such a dope name. If you were ever to have like a miraculous event where you have like a miracle sperm and you have children, Fredward. I will godfather your child.
Fred.
I love that name, Fredward. It's a combination between Fred or
Frederick
Alfred and Frederick or
and-
any Fred
Yeah.
and Edward. Fredward. It's not. It rolls off the tongue so smoothly, not like Jimothy. Jimothy sounds so fucking weird. It's like Jim and Timothy. It's like, oh.
But like I said, you guys have a great fan base, and it's
I
nice.
guess so.
It's very-
I
it's
didn't
very
even realize
positive.
we had this many comments.
You guys are it's good to stumble upon like any type of art, and it has a non-toxic fandom. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I say that, but people still do shit on us. There's still a lot of hate out there. It's the internet.
Right.
You'll always
Got
run
nothing better to
across
do.
a certain amount of hate.
Yeah.
Just like how he said people hate on Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I can see why people wouldn't like him because he still looks amazing at 60. And there's some people who are at 60 and have dementia, as we know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, oh, man.
occupational like knowledge.
I don't know how he does it.
I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
I don't know what he does to himself, but whatever it is, it's making him look healthy at least. Maybe he isn't, but enough to do like this. And then Mission Impossible is also going to come out again.
Yeah.
Like, dude, how does the guy keep doing it? And a lot of it's his own stunts. The guy like flew in planes.
He learned. Yeah.
You know, like how the heck did he survive all those G's? Dude, there's no way a human can last in 10 G's. That was definitely
Scientologists
Hollywood.
Probably can.
What's that?
Scientology.
Scientologists probably can. Hey,
Teachings
maybe
of
the
L.
key
Ron
to it
Hubbard.
all is Scientology.
The G's what? It's a hush hush.
Mike
But-
says it's because of Scientology.
But for real though, if you want to stay young looking, genetics, don't smoke cigarettes and stay out of the sun and drink a lot of water. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Don't smoke. Don't
Don't drink too much.
don't
alcohol.
drink too heavily.
I'm gonna have some.
I say
Marco.
that, and here I am having like this dope
hook me
ass
up,
sake.
I'm
Yo,
gonna,
I
I'm gonna
poured
have
you
some before
Oh,
I
you
go.
did. I'm sorry.
I hooked you up with some, bro. I hooked you up with some. Yeah, bro. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. I'm gonna grab some.
Please do. But anyway, this is sake I think is better warm, man. Warm sake. Warm sake.
Let me.
Very good.
I'm gonna turn in my Asian
Kill
card
Bill.
and say that I prefer it cold, but that's just.
I
me.
prefer it cold too. But like I taste this particular sake and I feel like it should be warm. But it's warming up anyway because we live in the valley.
It's
you
hot.
know.
Speaking of sake,
It's hot.
what is your? We got to do karaoke again soon. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Don't Stop Believing,
Oh, good choice.
fucking Journey, because
Good
that's
choice.
that's a staple.
Whitney Houston
Part of Your
song.
World, Part of Your World by The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, you said on another podcast with Kaylin Faye that Little Mermaid is your favorite Disney character.
Let me pour Jason some here.
Some,
Uh,
not Mulan.
yes. Not really Mulan. Not because I don't know. It's
because you're not the Chinese. I'm Korean.
Hey, I like Chinese girls. I think they're cool. I think Mulan was a badass character. You know,
This is
Fuck
not your
yeah.
favorite.
It's definitely not my favorite. I don't know. It's just like I think Mulan's an awesome character. Really cool written. I saw that movie at the Pantages when I was a kid.
Dang.
Yeah. I saw that Pocahontas at the Pantages, Lion King at
Nice,
the Pantages.
nice.
Now that I think about it, like it didn't mean much at the time, but my parents they put some good memories in my head.
Yeah.
Taking me to the theater that I didn't even appreciate until very recently because the Pantages is pretty dope theater.
My parents took me to see all these dope castles in France and England when I was a kid.
Oh, nice.
They took me to Korea twice. They took me to Yosemite. They gave me an education.
You know, shout out. This is to our parents, man. Cheers.
Cheers
To our parents, you know, because they fucking cared about us. I think a lot of what they've done for us already is allowing us to be on this podcast to talk to each other. Because could you imagine if they didn't do that and they were druggies and all this stuff? We'd have to be like, we might not be where we are.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say for a sure fact that we wouldn't be, you know, like down in the dumps, but you know, they did a lot, and you know, Asian parents, they worked very hard, that generation, to get us to where we're at now, to where we have this choice to do what we want to do, you know.
I'm not gonna choose to hate my dad. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, I know.
like I appreciate what he did for me and who he, and I understand who he is as a person, and I think that's a step towards giving my own sense a sense of inner peace. My big one of my big icons is Bruce Lee. I'm sorry if that sounds like a cliche, but
Mm-hmm.
he talked about having like your philosophy of like imagine yourself as like your inner self as like an ocean, and the more calm it is, the more kind of self-actualization and peace that you can achieve. So I just Kiss from a Rose is my go-to song by Seal. Because Batman Forever
Superman?
is the worst movie
Batman?
I've seen 100 times. I love that movie and I love that song. So
Forever was the one with Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer, yeah.
Okay. I was just watching a video
Pre-nips.
on pre-nipple Batman. I was watching a video on the Batmobile on YouTube, talking about how this last Batmobile with Edward Cullen, which, by the way,
Edward Cullen.
I enjoyed that
just got
last
that.
Batman.
I loved
by
it.
the
I've
way.
seen it 4 times.
I loved it.
I loved it, yeah.
I've seen it a couple of times on HBO Max. I wish I got to see it in theaters.
Oh, you should have seen it
though.
in
gotta
theaters.
rewatch.
I do think I should have seen it
It's a
in
gorgeous
theaters.
movie, yeah.
But I just the timing wasn't right at the time
That's
when
fine.
it came out.
That's fine.
But I'm glad it was out on HBO Max. I loved it. But I think that's the trend that all these superhero movies are heading towards now, is that they're coming out with a big movie, and then they're coming out with a series that kind of in the same universe kind of thing. That's what Marvel's doing. I'm not against it. That's what Star Wars is doing.
Yeah, yeah.
With Kenobi,
Yeah.
which has been pretty fantastic.
I'm
thus
enjoying
far.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm enjoying Kenobi.
I'm a cheap date though, so I don't really have a lot of criticisms for a lot of shows and movies from things that are from my childhood. You know, I'm not gonna complain.
but I fucking love Kenobi.
Yeah, me too.
Kenobi's been fucking amazing. I can't wait for tomorrow's episode.
Dang it.
Yeah.
You know,
My dad is all
Kenobi's
caught up,
tomorrow.
and I haven't even started, man.
Jason.
Star
stop.
Wars is such a huge franchise to consume, though.
is so
Yeah.
Because there's there's episodes 1 through 9 now, and then there's the Clone Wars, which is in and of itself an amazing series. Rebels, which kind of adds to the story. Rogue One, which was an amazing
I
movie.
love Rogue One.
Rogue One was amazing.
It's my second favorite.
The Vader scene, my God, like I jizzed my pants
I know.
and went to the
I-
theater
sometimes I get
again
drunk.
just for that.
Sometimes I get drunk and just watch that scene
I
yeah.
fucking love that scene.
because it's like
Peak
like,
Vader.
if when you're in the flow state of whatever you're doing, you're jamming with your bandmates and you get in this flow state, or you're at work or whatever. It's just this feeling of invincibility where nothing in this hallway is going to stop you.
Yeah.
And just the way it's shot, it's just really you know what I mean.
It's a boost.
Sorry.
I know.
That's
Sure.
how Vader felt. Like he was
Fun
just
fact.
like, I fucking
Fun fact.
got this.
You loved Batman. The cinematographer did both movies, and so that scene where Batman is beating everyone up in the hallway and all you
Yeah.
see is a gunfire. Same dude. Same cinematographer.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I can
Did
totally
it feel very
see it.
Vader-esque? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got Mando. You're talking about shows. I love
Mando. See, that's another thing
Love
that's
Mando.
like, and then they're gonna like Kenobi's out, and then they're gonna do one with the guy from Rogue One. I forget his name. Ahsoka
Andor.
might get her own
She is
series.
getting a show.
Yes.
Even the games.
Boba Fett got his own series.
Even the games are good too. Like in
and the
terms of, like,
games
adding
are
to
amazing. Like me and Mike were talking about this the other day. Like Rogue Squadron was a good
canon.
game.
I love Rogue Squadron.
Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader on GameCube. Super amazing.
Whoa.
The games were good. Like, dude, Star Wars is such a huge franchise to consume. You know, but I understand not everybody's into it. Like the guy, my friend from Japan, his dad loved it. And as a result, he hated it. I don't know what the relationship there is, but the point here is like, it's not for everybody, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And when you do meet somebody who's totally into it, that's even better, you know. And especially when you go to like Galaxy's Edge and you see the
I've
one-to-one Millennium Falcon.
I've yet to go.
Bro, you should go.
I'm gonna
That
build my own
Millennium
lightsaber.
Falcon is a trip. It's a 1-to-1.
My lightsaber will be purple.
Yeah, Mace Windu style.
Hell yeah.
Apparently Samuel L. Jackson got to choose that color.
Yeah. He insisted.
He insisted heavily,
Insisted.
and
That
they
was
gave it to him.
stipulation for like him being on the cast. It's like,
Hell yeah.
just give me.
But also, they wrote it in really well.
Interesting.
And the reason why it's purple, because there's blue and then there's red, and obviously the fusion between them is purple, because he had some dark side tendencies, and so his kyber crystal tended to like lean that way or something like. So somebody who knows way more about Star Wars is gonna comment or correct me on that one, but that is the basic gist of what I understand. Is the reason why it's purple is because he is very powerful and does have some dark side tendencies, but still leans towards the light, and that's why he's still a Jedi. Which unfortunately he died. You know, that just sucks. Like, dude, and me and Mike were also talking about this. Like, we love all these multiple perspectives of Order 66.
Yes.
Like, you know, obviously we saw it in Episode 3, but then you see it again in Bad Batch.
You see it
in
Mandalorian.
Clone Wars.
You
You see it in Mandalorian.
You see it in Obi-Wan in the beginning.
You see it in Obi-Wan. It's like Order 66 was the heaviest event of Star Wars in the entire franchise and the story. It's the pivotal turning point. All the Jedi get fucking murdered.
Can I make a recommendation to you?
Yeah.
I've never played the game, but by all rights, I've heard it's pretty good. Watch the YouTube short that features, that's like kind of like the intro to the video game. It's called Star Wars Squadrons. It's called Hunted. Check it out. It's from the perspective of a TIE fighter pilot, and it is awesome. I still watch it sometimes when I get drunk because it's just so well made.
It's canon?
Yeah.
Wow.
It makes you sympathize with him.
Well, look this up, Mike.
It's like 6 minutes. Don't watch it now, but watch it when you get home. It's really good. It's really good. Yeah.
Oh, is that it right there?
That's the
Hunted?
game. But just watch the YouTube. It's like 6 minutes. It's incredible. And in fact, in the it's like a cutscene really. It features the gameplay stuff where like if you want to get fast, you have to sacrifice weapons. If you want to have good weapons, you got to sacrifice speed.
Yeah.
Like power.
I think that's like a video game
Yeah,
dynamic
it's a
where,
video game
you know,
dynamic.
you gotta, you know, because in Rogue Leader, it's very similar. Like, you know, certain, like the A wing is fast but super weak on shields,
right.
and then the Y wing is super tanky but super slow.
So watch it. You Jason too, and Mike, just watch it after this podcast. I know that Jason has to go.
I'll watch it on the way. I'm gonna pack some gear, guys. Alfred, I will let you guys chat if you feel like it's flowing. I'm just gonna head inside the house and grab some stuff.
All right,
I'm
cool,
kinda
man.
dying
Well,
here. It's so
Departing
hot.
it is really hot. Let me see if I can point some of this fan
That's
towards
okay.
you.
It's okay.
Yeah. Well, all this means is we just got to have a part
I absolutely wanna
3
come back, yeah.
of our podcast, and hopefully this time also Josh can join, and
Yeah.
hopefully Jason doesn't have like irresponsible bandmates who force him to do shit that he,
Tim,
you know.
Tim, it's fine.
Is it because I'm the only Filipino? Never mind. We're not gonna go there.
You know, whatever it is that. You know what though? Like I will say, in the music industry, this guy's gotten screwed a handful of times by some people. You know, which effing sucks. You know, and that really does suck. And I feel like Jason's got the short end of the stick a few times.
I will
you
say
know?
though, these experiences for me at least, I'm looking at the camera like I'm just telling everyone. These experiences have had to happen because I know who's snaky, who's not, who's a real friend, who's got your back, who's the real friend that's gonna check on you and say like, Jace, are you good? Try this, try that.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of buddies that really do that for me, and that's what Indescendants is about. We got each other's backs, and we try to provide value for everybody, and you know,
You guys are good people.
try to be cool.
I'm great
Yeah,
to be
man.
part of this
That's it.
podcast.
You also got to try our burrito before you go.
Oh,
Wink, wink.
okay. All right.
We have a burrito, so
I'll get on my knees.
you know, it's not that kind of burrito you got to put in your mouth, but it's really good. We're also, I'll tell you off the air, coming up with a different thing that's
Okay.
a little more unique than a
But
burrito.
I really wanna come back next week though for sure.
Let's talk with Josh and see what he can do. He says he can do next week because apparently his Hawaii trip blew up, right? I don't know what that means. I'm going to Hawaii later this month. I hope that doesn't blow up. I hope in the same way his does. But yeah, man, like I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully we can all come back and have a good time again, and further talk about our flow of movies and love of movies. Hopefully by next week, I'm really curious to see what happens on Kenobi, because spoiler alert, a lot happened in the last one with Vader. I didn't think he and Vader would even meet until the very last
I thought
episode.
James Earl Jones came back as a voice.
He didn't.
He didn't?
He didn't.
What?
Spoiler alert. It's Hayden Christensen with AI tweaking to make it in the likeness of James Earl Jones.
Whoa.
James Earl Jones gets credit for it. Mike, look this up. This is true,
he's
right,
like
Mike?
90 years old, right?
Right.
He's like 90 years old. He's old.
He's old, but I mean, he can do it. It's just voice acting.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, in the same way they did this with Luke Skywalker in Boba Fett,
Yeah, that was.
it wasn't Mark
I heard
Hamill,
it wasn't
but
him.
he was credited with it because they used his
It
likeness.
sounded like him so much though.
And
Like
dude,
the 80s Mark Hamill, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, exactly, which is what they were going for. And it's the same now with Darth Vader, where it's like if you kind of listen to it, there's a little bit off. Like if you've watched a lot of Star Wars and consumed a lot of Darth Vader, you'll notice that like some of the dialogue is a little off, and it feels like he wouldn't speak like this or wouldn't talk like this.
Well, you could canonically say that this is like before the Tridge, right?
Yes.
So his voice is changing, and it's 10 years. This is
Yeah.
10 years before A New Hope. So
Right.
maybe his inflection
10
does
years
change.
before New Hope, before Rogue One.
Yeah.
Where it was still James Earl Jones. They didn't have that technology yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, the AI technology now is anybody can talk, and it will talk in their likeness now. That's what happened with Val Kilmer in Top Gun, right? It wasn't even Val Kilmer who spoke. It was his son.
Future.
I mean, like, there was also, like, because Val Kilmer has throat cancer, right?
Yeah.
So that one's a legitimate excuse. But with James Earl Jones, I'm like, dude, if I'm James Earl Jones, I wanna talk. I want to voice Vader. I am Vader, I'm Mufasa too. But the point here being is like, yeah, it wasn't even him. But to bring it all back, yes, I hope Kenobi's good tomorrow, and I hope we have something really good to talk about next week as we open that up and maybe even have a Star Wars themed episode.
Oh
Who
my
knows?
God, I could talk about Star Wars for like 5 hours. Specifically, no, we'll wait.
We'll wait till the next time. But up until then, we're cutting this podcast a little short. Alfred, thanks again for coming, bro.
Thanks for having
We're
me
going to
over.
have you again next week. We'll make it work. We'll find a way.
I'll make the time.
We'll make the time. All right.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks,
Yeah,
Mike.
thanks.
Thanks, Jason.
We're out.
Hey guys, Jason here from Indescendants. Thanks for watching our videos, and for more videos, hit the subscribe button below.